I'm your host, Rena Friedman Watts, and this is the Better Call Daddy Show.
Hey, this is Big Daddy, Wayne Friedman.
That's my grandpa. Grandpa, you ready for more daddy drama?
My dad is my number one hero and number one fan.
And I'm a pretty cool dude.
All right, season 4, baby, here we go.
More stories you're not going to believe.
And maybe you will after you listen.
5 stars.
5.5 stars, 2 thumbs up.
You are a pretty cool dude.
I love you, Mommy.
Don't stand on the table and damn the public. You'll get some words of wisdom to live by.
Here we go again. Better call Daddy.
You know what your problem is? You like me.
Yeah, I do. Each week, I interview a guest, share the stories with my dad, and then he weighs in at the end of every episode with his wisdom and wit.
Hey, Grandpa.
Everyone from influential players to inspirational fathers, and of course, controversial people.
Grandpa, my mommy's calling.
Creating that legacy one call at a time. And welcome to the Better Call Daddy Show.
Stay tuned.
Where's the music?
Better call Daddy 'cause he knows you best. Better call Daddy 'cause he's bringing the test. He sees possibilities. Better call Daddy, he'll be by your side. Better call Daddy, you're the apple of his eye. He sees possibilities. Oh,
When I told my dad about Mazi's story, he said, Mazi sounds like a father who is willing to sacrifice everything to give his kid a chance. And today we are going to talk about the chance that he is fighting for his own son.
Hi, my name is Mazi Keyghobadi, and I am one of the co-founders of Hope for Luka. And our website is hopeforluka.org. Luka stands for Lukian, which is my son's name. He's 7 years old, and he has a rare form of muscular dystrophy. Thank you for having me here, by the way.
I am so excited to have you here today. So you sent me a video of Top Gun, and I would love for you to describe to me like you taking the pilot seat of what is happening right now in your life. Talk to me about that clip and what that clip meant to you.
So the pilot, for instance, that one certain clip is not about much of a fight, because people look at it and say, well, this is, about war, and it's not, you shouldn't be comparing that to this situation. But the reality is not that. The reality is that the clip represents a struggle of the pilot in the front, a past, and what is happening in the present moment that will affect basically the co-pilot, which is Rooster, right? And of course, the pilot is Maverick, and Maverick represents parents like myself. And what also people might not realize, parents that don't deal with situations like this. And, again, there is no judgment on anybody. My journey in this situation is not a judgment on other people's journey or any type of mine is better than yours because everybody's different and there's a different lesson in everyone's journey. But in that sense, Maverick represents not only myself, it represents my brothers, it represents my parents, a group of friends that I have, people, my board members. It's a collective effort, and Maverick presents that. It's not only one person. If I say, oh, that's me sitting in the cockpit, it's a very selfish thing to say, because none of the things that I've done until this point would have been possible without them. It's people that have faith in you, that out of thousands that you reach out, a couple of them will come in right off the bat and try to help you. And it is understandable. It's nothing against people say, oh, why did you not help me? But not everybody see it or sees your movement, and not everybody believes it is possible, but you just have to keep going. So the pilot represents that. And then the pilot is doing everything on an F-14, which is an old plane, versus 5th gen, which is Duchenne, or muscular dystrophy. This disease it affects the entire body. So, you have somebody that has a heart failure or heart problem. That's one issue. You have someone that has kidney problems or this and that, right? Or eczema or this and that. This particular, unfortunately, disease affects the entire body. So first, the muscles on the outside, your muscles that will help you walk or, do things. Then as those muscles fail, but as the time passes, it goes into your internal muscles, which is lungs, heart. Even when you swallow with muscle help. So at some point, you won't be able to swallow. But, those are later stages. In the beginning, it's not like that. And I think I'm going a little bit off track on the video, but one of the hardest thing is that these kids are mentally and emotionally completely normal. You see them, they're walking, talking. There's no mental challenge when it comes to the disease itself. So, but they go down one by one, and they go down at such an early age, and psychologically it affects them in great deal. So, but back to the video. So yes, the Maverick is trying to do that and going against the 5th gen. He just decides to go for it, and he gives it everything. And yeah, I'll do the rest once the video starts, because I don't want to spoil it. I think it will have more impact, and we go from there.
I actually had such a different interpretation. That is really interesting. Actually, you coloring this video that you sent me, I would have thought, just from you having sent it to me, that it was like you and your son in this plane, and there's ups and downs and people firing at you, and you're like, it's me and you, kid, against the world. I am going to freaking make sure that you're safe, and I am flying this plane, and don't you worry, because I'm in this plane with you, and I've gotten rid of my business and my car and freaking everything. I've started a nonprofit. I've connected with scientists. I am going to save you.
Actually, in a sense, it is like that. And when you talk about like that, actually, it's a very interesting point that you made, because when I think about it like that, the people that actually support you are the ones in the ship, the ones that are, on the other plane above you, giving you, instructions, or even the wingman waiting to come rescue you. So yes, it is kind of like that. The mentality is like that, because it is a struggle as far as mentally. I can tell you stories about how many times I doubted myself. I doubted the movement. I thought maybe, I should be spending more time making money so I can fund his future, So there's a lot of decisions that need to be made, and those decisions are not easy ones. But something inside me always, just like you said, it's me and him against all this incoming threat, right? And the threat, unfortunately, is not going to go away. It just will continue. It is all about you just pulling and pulling and pulling yourself up continuously every moment, and just keep going. One of the darkest days that I had, I would say, would be the days that I would just, doubt the movement. And those days are the ones that I would need, that I would seek help from my family, friends, and people that are close to me. So yes, what you said is on point, actually. I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Interesting. I would like to talk about what lessons maybe that you have learned around faith.
When he was diagnosed at 14 months old, so it's quite early. I remember for a good 2 months, I wasn't able to, especially the first few weeks was very difficult, because, you're looking at this child that you love to death. And I'm one of those parents, they have different type of parents, and respect to all of them, different style of parents and all of that. But in order for me to know myself, I just have to take a look at my mother and my grandmother. Both people that are extremely protective and loving for their kids. That's all they do. They've dedicated their entire lives for their kids.
Wow.
I have 3 brothers and a twin brother, total of 4 of us, and 4 boys. Good luck. I mean, I know you have 4 kids too.
I
so
have
I know
3 boys.
Exactly. There you go. So
And a
you know what
daughter.
it takes, for
Whew.
4 kids to raise. It's not easy, So my parents, did that their entire life. They raised us, put everything for us, and that's encoded in my DNA the same. And loving the kid it's there. And once you become a parent, it really changes you in many ways, for especially a man, because it's more scary. Women, I guess, tend to more be prepared mentally, emotionally for that, because that's how they're designed. I understand a man also, but for a man, once that baby comes to your hand, it's like, okay.
This
But
is real.
yeah, but it really gets to that. Yes, it feels real. And then from there is that, thing that gets activated, right? That feeling, that instinct. I don't know what that is. It gets activated. And once we received the diagnosis, there was a shock. There was a big shock, in a sense that I couldn't look at him the same. I was looking, and, it's very hard to describe. It's not in the sense of, oh, I don't like you anymore. It's a disbelief that this ball of energy all of a sudden is going to have such a horrible fate. What am I going to do with this, And I think your brain just goes into a complete shock. It just can't comprehend it. And that's where the energy comes forward. The soul. You can call it energy, you can call it soul, you can call it God, you can call it universe. To me, they're all the same concept. There is something out there, some sort of energy that runs in all of us, right? That's where that gets activated. And that's a whole different story because, until then it was just, materials, mind, all that stuff. Some things that been fed to you since childhood, society also. But all of those breaks because you have now a situation where none of those things can help you. So now what? Question to ask, right? His deletion, one thing about muscular dystrophy, it is a disease that is not one particular issue that you will try to solve. So you have 79 exons. These are blocks, little blocks in different shapes. Sometimes they get fitted like this, sometimes they get fitted like this because, there's one of them missing. But there are 79 blocks, what we call exons. And these blocks some of them get deleted out of the 79. So somebody has 5 of them deleted. Somebody has duplication. That means there are some certain numbers that are duplicated again, which they shouldn't be. Some, they call it nonsense mutation. That means the reading frame, the machine, let's say, some machine that will drive next to these blocks and read them or scan them, it will just stop at some point and just won't read the rest. So there are different types of deletions or mutations. And then there are, even on the subtypes, let's say somebody only has a deletion, you have different types of deletions even. So if somebody has a deletion from, let's say, exon 7 to exon 17 is way different than somebody has it from 20 to 25. So you have an enormous varieties of deletions, and a lot of these deletions, for instance, my son's case, he has a deletion from 17 to 44. So block 17 to block 44, there's nothing there. But block 16 is connecting to block 45. Good. So the machine is able to come onto block 17 and pass and read from 44 to the end. There are kids that have deletions from, let's say 15 or 14 to 45, where the blocks are like this. So the machine comes in here and says, what is this? I cannot pass through this because they're supposed to be like this. So the machine will stop on block 16. So all the rest, it's like it doesn't even exist, although it's there, but the machine cannot read anymore, so it will stop. And these 79 are the ones that will produce the protein that is called dystrophin. And dystrophin is a shock absorber, just like your car. When you go on a bump, the shock absorber on the car will stop basically from you to fly to the roof of your car, right? It absorbs the shock for you. And that's exactly what dystrophin is. It's a protein that stretches and de-stretches. So the muscle fiber, the wall of the muscle fiber, does not break when the muscle actually gets contracted and goes back to its normal size. So, but kids that don't have part of the dystrophin missing or just don't simply produce dystrophin, they are at the mercy of the muscle taking care of itself, which the muscle is not able to do that. So the muscle fiber gets damaged, it gets torn. On a regular person, when a muscle gets torn, you have what we call satellite cells, which are stem cells. But there are limited numbers of these cells. A regular person would use, let's say, I'm just making an example, these are not scientific, so don't take me for it. But let's say they use 1,000 of these satellite cells. That means my muscle breaks, right? Because I work out, it gets torn. And then it will send 10 satellite cells that says, well, build more muscles, because obviously that's not enough to take care of that task. That's how you grow the muscle and you become bigger. Right? In that case, let's say they use 10,000 of these satellite cells throughout the month until they die, right? So your body has enough to produce it until you get to 70, 80. That's why when you get older, you have less muscles because you're almost out of those satellite cells. Unfortunately, for kids with muscular dystrophy, depending on how harsh or how bad your deletion is or your mutation is, those satellite cells, they get overproduced, meaning overused. Basically, instead of using 1,000, you're using 10,000. So now you have 1/10 of a life cycle's supply of satellite cells, basically. So instead of living up to 70, you live up to like 20, 30. You see what I'm saying?
They go quick.
They go quicker, yeah. They run through them quicker. Basically, that's the entire idea. The idea is to stop the muscles from getting damaged. How do you do that? Well, fix the shock absorbers so they can absorb the shocks, right? And there are different ways to do that. But that's the idea. So that way you don't run through your reserve muscle cells so fast that you have nothing left. Because when you have nothing left, the body quits. It goes, okay, well, this is empty. What do I do with this? The muscles, let's say you finish it at the age of 17, 20. Now you have the next muscle that is going to die because it's reading from the same, remember, map that was 79 blocks and it's missing. Well, dead muscles. You become a collection of dead muscles, and one by one, of course, depending on first the bigger muscles that are outside of the body, first they will fail, and then the internal muscles will fail, the ones that help you breathe. So sometimes they go into like ventilation and stuff like that. And then, of course, the last one is the heart, and that's how these kids unfortunately pass away. So that's basically the story of muscular dystrophy. It's a disease that does not have one type. It's a disease that has many different types. For instance, my son's deletion, which is from 17 to 44, he actually falls within a category that's not even defined yet. So there are, of course, different type of categories. For deletion, there are two major categories. One is called Becker muscular dystrophy. One is called Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And Duchenne is the one that is like this. That means whatever that was deleted, the two sides are not matching. Becker is the one that says whatever that's deleted, it doesn't matter how many numbers, they're matching. That means the machine that is reading it can go from 16 to 45 and continue reading, right?
And originally they thought that your son had Becker's.
So originally they knew because what we call a genotype and a phenotype. Genotype is basically what the genetic structure is, which is this, right? So genotype says, well, this, they're matching together, Becker, right? And then you have phenotype. Phenotype means depending on the length of the deletion and the number. So if you have 17 to 44, and that's 27, if you have that same 27 from 54 to 79, for instance, maybe I'm doing the math wrong, but the location matters. So if it's in the beginning or if it's at the end, that's one of the factors. They know now that the location matters. The closer it gets to the beginning, the more dangerous it is. And also the amount of deletion, when it comes to my son's case, it's 27 exons out of 79, which is quite a bit. It's like you're building a bridge and you're supposed to build a bridge that is 1 mile, but you only have the material to make it for half a mile. So you have to stretch, make the bridge smaller and stretch the bridge. And that bridge is always at its, it's very tense, smallest little pressure might break it versus a bridge that was supposed to be a mile. In Duchenne kids, you make half of it, the other half is not even there. Or if it's in the beginning, you make almost, a little bit of the bridge in the beginning, the rest is not there. So there are severities goes based on that. And those are the worst type, when it comes to Duchenne. And I really feel for these kids and their parents because the time that they have to do something is very little versus I have a bit more time. My son is 7 years old. He does limp every time he does activities. That means his muscles are actually not being produced enough. He is running through his stem cells quite fast, but the progression is less because the bridge is there. It's just small. And I will get to what we're trying to do. We're trying to increase the number of bridges. And when I say bridges, it's a very good representation, between the muscle fiber wall and the internal part of the muscle fiber. The bridge is the shock absorber. But the shock absorber that's supposed to be this big is now this big. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because part of it is missing. So that's the type of deletion that he has. And on the genotype was Becker. On the phenotype, now they changed it when he was 5 years old because he started limping at 4. I knew something is wrong. I knew from the beginning because the way he would look, his muscles, you would look at this kid and he's so strong and his muscles look built. He looks like, at 2-year-old, he looked like, Jackie Chan. So that was the case. And I knew, okay, well, that's not normal, And I was reading Lily's little story on today.com.
Lily Brasch.
Lily Brasch.
She's a past guest of mine with a rare form of muscular dystrophy. I want to talk about that, but how rare is your son's condition? Like one out of...
There's only one more person that has it in the
whole world?
Yeah, in the whole known database.
Oh my God.
There might be people that have it, they don't even know about it, or they haven't submitted it to the database. But what
Lily
we know,
is also very rare. She was told that she wouldn't live past 2, and now she's at Columbia University and...
Yeah, I've read the story. It's quite
walking
miraculous.
New York Fashion Week
and
doing Guinness World Book record activities. So
mm-hmm. That's what it does. I'm telling you, that's what it does to you. That's what pain does. It wakes up part of you that you never knew existed. To go back to the question that you asked about, faith and spirituality, or believing in something out there, a force. Yes, absolutely. Even if you don't want to, it will force you to that degree because it really pushes you to. The only thing that can keep you sane is to look inside, because the outside people will tell you it's okay. They brush you off, and it's not. I get it. It's not a complaint. I'm not mad at people. I used to be, but that is off because people also have their own issues, they have their own problems. It might not be a physical or a child, but it might be a death in the family. So I'm no one to judge that and consider if somebody should be helping me or not. But at the same time, you dig inside because people are not really understanding what the situation is here. They don't understand how difficult it is to watch an innocent child that you love so much to just start getting wasted with the muscles, and keep going down. There is no future that I can look up to. So yeah, I do have to dig inside of myself and look at now. Look at what I can do now. Or even I can be happy because he's still walking. I can enjoy that instead of thinking about, be sad about the future that he's not going to be able to walk. I can enjoy the time that he walks. So it really puts your perspective in check, and it really makes you question your entire existence. It makes you question your view of life as if, you're always looking at the future. I want the future to be good for my son. Well, in my case, that's quite dark, especially in the beginning. Now I have more, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but I have more things at my disposal. There was, one study that was it wasn't a study, it was a drug that was passed, the first ever gene editing medication that was passed in July of 2023. And that gives everyone, including myself, hope, because, that's not something that my son can use because it's for a different type of deletion and different location of deletion. And it's only for kids from 5 to 7 for now. They're trying to expand it and, give it to other kids in higher ages. But again, technology is evolving as we speak. And, it looks very promising because I can also use some of that technology in our research and try to do something for my son. Yeah, it really does put you in a perspective of what's life. Don't look into the future. Focus on the now and do your best. That's all it is. People can say anything. I was back to Lily, for instance. I read what she said about how people tell you or predict your future. That one sentence, I knew right away. I said, look, this lady, I'm just going to read every word. And I read that article probably 10 times. And, I had, of course, I was crying and very emotional because everything she said in there, it's an absolute representation of a lot of parents and their kids. And I'm talking about me. I mean, imagine what those kids are going through. I mean, I have no issues with my body, right? My only pain is, my son getting hurt, which is, I would rather have it for myself than watch my son, of course. But I cannot even imagine what kids that are growing up with this. And I also think, if parents are also observing the kid, they have this sorrow. So you're growing up with pain and all these issues in your muscles. And then you're also looking at your parent and you're like, well, this person's quite depressed and sorry because you feel it, So there is those two psychological, emotional, and physical aspects for the actual person that is going through that. And as a parent, I would always want to mention that because it is not my story or people's story and what we're doing for our kids that should be inspiring, which, that is on its own. Yes, it is inspiring, but what these kids go through, and some of these kids, when you talk to them, it's quite amazing. They are happier and more motivated and more connected with life than most of us, with all these limitations that they have. It is quite inspiring, and I've learned quite a bit from these 20-year-old children that are, I would say children, adults, young adults that are on wheelchair, and they are in many aspects more advanced than most people in society. And it's very sad because these people are mostly overlooked. You want to learn something? Go get somebody with a muscular dystrophy, ask a question or two about life and see their responses. I promise you they will give you goosebumps. They gave me goosebumps.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That sounds like a tremendous learning. I am curious too. Do you feel like God made your son this way?
I feel universe, aka God. I like to call it universe, but it's the same.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that it happened for a purpose. I think it happened to teach me something. And I know now what it is, to be honest with you, because prior to him getting diagnosed, it was mostly about me and trying to make it. I have a posting even on my Facebook page that I, back in 2001, I mentioned that I was so much involved into getting, business up and running, and money and power and security, all that stuff, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
So, you know how it is. It was in a sense that, yes, I believe if I called it in that little note that I wrote on Facebook, I called it a curse and a gift at the same time. Of course, it's a curse because no parents want to see that. I mean, it is the worst nightmare coming true, to my opinion, especially something like this where there's almost nothing you can do. And it doesn't affect one aspect of your life. It affects everything when it comes to that kid. happiness running. Imagine just walking, simple walking. Every time he walks since 4 years old, since he started limping, that is an issue. You're constantly monitoring this kid to see, is he going to limp? Is he going to run too much? He runs a little bit, of course, it's a little boy, energetic as God knows,
Yeah.
That was a gift and a curse because it's a curse because it's horrible to go through this, but it's a gift because it wakes you up. It shows you a side of universe and a side of yourself that you never knew existed. It brings forth a strength that you can tap into, and you can change yourself, people around you, even the society around you at some point, And then it also makes you, beside those realizations, there were questions that I asked myself that I would never even think about, And those questions were, so what are you going to do? I mean, you sit with yourself, decisions there, you've been through the crying, you've been through all that, 2 months pass, nothing else, no more emotions left to empty, and everybody's around you is like, okay. Because, I mean,
not sure what to say here.
Exactly. It's not their fault. It's just they don't know what to say or what to do. And, it's completely natural. I understand that. But then you go inside of yourself. That's where you really face your own demons, I would say.
I like what you said. You use the words ego dissolvement.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's where it comes, actually. I'll tell you. Because the question that comes is that, are you going to do something, anything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is like that because you don't know anything at that point. You just got introduced to it, 2 months of crying and this and that, and a bunch of traumatic events emotionally. But then the question comes, okay, what are you going to do? Obvious answer for me was, I'm going to do something, And then the next question was, there's nothing out there because I did, basic research, and I knew that his type of deletion, even now that they have a lot of things in the pipeline, because of the rarity of his deletion, and kids like him are the same. There's a lot of different kids which have different type of deletions that are different than his, but because they don't fall in that pool of patient, they're not attractive, basically subject to pharmaceuticals and all that stuff. Plus, of course, you want to go and do something for the larger population if you can, versus trying to save 3 or 4 kids. So there is understanding there as well. Although in the beginning I had quite a bit of anger a little bit toward that, oh, why are you ignoring my son? But when you really step back for a second and you look at it from the bigger picture, you understand that there is more immediate need and a bigger, larger population, that if you do one thing, you can save more people. So the question was, are you going to really go after this? Because that's mission impossible right there. We're talking about entire body and genetic mutation. You're changing genes. You're not just looking for a heart, This is something that can kill your son even at some point. So that decision has to be made. And the answer was yes, absolutely, I'm going to go after it. I told myself, look, if I won't get it, if I'll do everything that I can and I won't get it, I've tried everything. He gets 20 years old and goes on wheelchair and says, Papa, what did you do for me? Did you really try everything when the technology was available? Did you go at it like your life depends on it? And the answer is yes, I did. I did go at it. So that was one of the things that I think changed me in many sense, because that's where your ego gets shattered. That's where me goes out the window. Me and my problems and my things and what I should have and I shouldn't have, all that stuff dissolves. There is no more me anymore, It's not a target, but there is only the moments that you have to cherish and moments that you have to make the best out of it. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 types of movement. One is that I want to be here right now and enjoy you. For that, you really have to have a clear head. Because if you're constantly thinking and worrying and constantly running after answers, you're not going to enjoy anything. And that kid is going to see a nervous father running after answers, depressed or anxious, both equally messed up, to my opinion. Imagine what kind of kid are you going to have. So yes, that's a real issue right there. An issue maybe in the past you wouldn't look at prior to the diagnosis, if you're running after business or whatever, money or taking care of family, of course, those things are stressful. But once you lose something or something like that comes along in your life, you learn to deal with it, So it grounds you. What I was trying to say is that it really grounds you. It says, okay, I know you got to do this. I know you got that mission impossible to attend to, but there is this time that you can also use and be with your child, provide the strength to him, make him feel safe, make him feel loved, make him feel like everything is okay. I got this,
That's beautiful. I want to hear about how you guys bond. What do you guys love doing together?
Everything and everything, to be honest with you. Since he was 9 months old, and I know, and I'm sorry, we keep jumping from one question to another, it just comes up. But when he was 9 months old, I started telling him, and that was prior to the diagnosis, But I promised myself, because when I was a kid, I would hate people come in and talk to me like a kid. Santa's real. But that's okay. Look, I mean, again, no judgment on people that do say that.
Yeah.
It is a personal preference. So respect is there, absolutely. But I would prefer with him that I'm just going to tell you everything as it is. I really believe that if he sees life as it is, without putting, labels of bad, good, oh, this is bad, this is good. No, it's just the way it is, Society's state is what it is. You have to understand it instead of labeling it or hating it or loving it. You better understand it, then you can decide if you want to hate it, love it, or be in it, or even stay away from it. So that was a mentality. So I would say everything to him, and I knew he was little. His brain wasn't fully developed. I would just talk to him on any subject if I wanted to show him something, and then as he started talking, same thing. He would ask a question: is Santa real? No. That's okay. I know, but other people say they're real, but no, it's not. So that's okay. This is something that people use, and I would explain to him a little bit more. I wouldn't just say no and that's it. This is what, it brings faith, it brings this and that, and it's a fun activity.
Did he want Santa to be real?
Not really. You see, because I had talked to him in that way, there was this enormous amount of trust that he had in me, and for that reason, he took everything really well. It's funny because when you program, and I don't like to use that word programming, but when you do program kids from early age, they do understand. It becomes natural for them. It becomes part of them. So he would just take it, and he would think, of course, and 1,000 other questions that would come after the no. But it was mostly like, hey, it's not real, but if you want to participate, it's a fun thing to do. Christmas is fun. Let's go do this, do that. Some people might believe in the story. Some people might not believe in the story. It just doesn't matter. It's a fun time. People love each other, give each other gifts. Go for it, So that was the idea, but I would never lie to him on anything. He asked me, where do babies come from? And I'm not going to go into details, but yes, there was conversation with that,
Kids are straight up.
Yeah. And for that reason, he came okay with that too. It took a while. Sometimes, he asked me one time, he said, can we see a video of a birth? And, he was home birthed, by the way. I caught him myself at home. So there was a midwife, Afua Hassan, may her soul rest in peace. This lady was she had the energy of 1,000 people into one person. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, this woman was just so strong mentally. She didn't do much during the birth because she didn't need to. Like, her presence was like, she knew everything. She knew when the baby was coming. It was just really inspiring to be around this lady. My journey kind of started from that point. That's why I have such a strong connection with him, because it was at home. Mama was comfortable being at home, so we decided to do that. Of course, it was scary because, first thing comes to your head is, what if this happens? What if that goes wrong?
Yeah.
You're not in the hospital, but knock on wood, everything went well. And yeah, that happened like that. But back to him, it's always been like that. It's always been, the connection has been real. And up to this moment, one of the things that I wanted to actually mention on the video is the way in the very beginning of the video where Maverick is talking to Rooster and they're trying to decide what to do. That moment is also very inspiring to me because Maverick is listening to Rooster as if he's saying something that Maverick doesn't know, meaning that he's taking Rooster's words and advice seriously. And that's how it is kind of with me and my 7-year-old. I do take him as a big man, he does have some points sometimes, you'd be surprised, these kids, because their heads are so clear and they don't have all these noises that we have in the head. Sometimes what they say, as stupid as it may sound or childish, sometimes is the most realist thing you can hear. So I listen to him and, of course not all the time, but most of the time we have this very strong bond where I take him very seriously. He told me when he turned 7, for my birthday, I want to go to Colorado and see snow. He'd seen the snow before that, but he didn't remember. So of course we planned a trip to go to Colorado, and of course we saw snow, and that was very fun. And then for the Christmas time, he said for this year, I want to have cats, because I took him in Austin one time to this place where, you can go and hang out with cats, and he loved chasing.
Oh, wow. Are you getting a cat?
Oh, we have 2 cats now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's sweet. You're nice.
Yeah, we got 2 cats, and that was for his Christmas present, basically. So when I brought him home from Mama's place, there were 2 cats waiting for him. So.
Okay, now I want to ask, do you feel like since, he could potentially have a shorter life, that, when whatever he wants, you want to get him? Are there cutoffs there?
Yes. So again, back to the story of having a normal life. It's very hard to navigate because I do get carried away sometimes because you can't give
You're
a
like,
person.
want a cat? You get a cat. Want some snow? We're going to Colorado.
Well, it's not all the time. Of course, there are a lot of things that he asks because, of course, a kid, you give him one thing, he will ask for 10 things
Exactly.
more. So yes, there is that cutoff because I just want him to experience certain things, certain things that are major in his life, and while he has the ability to walk. So Colorado especially was, yeah, sure, you haven't seen snow, let's go. Maybe in 2-3 years you won't be able, or it will be more difficult. Up to it's still this point, I don't even know if he's going to have a shorter life or a longer life, or a longer life on wheelchair or a shorter life on wheelchair. So those things are unknown, unfortunately, because there's only one other person that has the same exact deletion as he does, and that person, of course, I don't know who he is. I don't know what happened to him. HIPAA regulations. So
Oh, so you can't track him down.
I cannot
Would
track
you
him
want
down.
to?
Absolutely. I would want to. But even two sons from the same mother that would have a deletion would go through a different journey. So I know a couple of people that one actually died at 17, exact same deletion from the same parents. And the other son now is 40 years old.
Wow.
Still living, yeah. So it's not the same thing because, of course, beside the deletion, everybody is different. Let's say me and my twin brother, we don't have any type of genetic mutations, but we're completely different. We're fraternal twins.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at him and the way his health is and what he's going through is completely different, but what I am going through, and I feel like more healthy, to be honest with you, rather than what he's going through. So unfortunately, that's one of the things that there is no prediction, there is nothing to compare to, and there is no future that you can really say this is going to happen. That's why the story of Lily was so inspiring, because that's exactly what it is. She's on point. People will tell you and predict the future for you. They wish you well. Of course, they don't want you to suffer. But the reality is that as parents, we know there is unknown, an absolute unknown. Until you live it and walk it, it will be an unknown. But I try to cut that back to the question. I try to cut it off. Yes. He's
Within
not going to
reason.
get everything. I'm not going to have a little spoiled child. That's not going to be my child. Yeah. So, we do go against him because his personality also is very strong personality because of the logic and all that stuff that's been fed to him from the beginning. So it's very difficult to argue with him. Very difficult. Trust me. He will come at you with things you would not even think, because he looks at it realistically, So, okay. So you can't go. Why? Well, because, there is no travel. Oh, okay. So let's go look at a train. Oh, really? Okay. Well, no train. It takes a long time. Oh, what about buses? Let's rent a van. Let's go. Can we get an RV and bring the dogs too? And I'm like, no. So yes, I do have to explain to him that this is real life. You cannot just get everything. We have certain limited amount of money. I haven't talked about anything as far as, what I'm doing with the nonprofit. And if I want to put the nonprofit, he's still too little for it.
So you haven't
He
shared
knows-
all of that. He doesn't
Correct.
fully understand all of that. Let's talk about some of that, actually.
Sure.
Yeah.
What would you like to know?
I mean, the part that's fascinating to me is that you went to a conference and were one of the only non-scientists at the event just to get in front of people who you wanted, their knowledge and their connection, and talk about that.
Sure. So that was in December of 2022. That was about a month and a half after we formed the nonprofit. And the story of the nonprofit, the way we formed it, also there's a backstory to it. I saw that conference and came up somehow. I don't remember exactly how, but it was quite unexpected. And at that point, I had one scientist that agreed to do certain research, which is Dr. Dongsheng Duan of University of Missouri. He's actually he's considered one of the best researchers in the field of muscular dystrophy. He's the head of the department in University of Missouri when it comes to neuroscience research on muscular dystrophy, and published 200 papers and a host of other things that he's done that, he's well known in the community. So he agreed. He said, look, I will make you a mice model because I really wanted to know. And a lot of people actually kind of disagreed with me, but that was just my instinct guiding me. Sometimes you really have to trust your own instinct. It's hard to describe, but I really wanted to know if I make a mice model, which is, basically duplicating my son's deletion on the mice model and these poor mice.
Poor mice.
I mean, I still have, for animals, me and my son we're very pro nature and animals, so
Yeah.
we don't like to kill them or
Yeah.
hurt them. But at the same time, in this situation, unfortunately, we have no saying because it's a tough decision you have to make. That's it, you know? So yes, it was a mice. Dr. Dongsheng Duan is able to create a mice model for us. And we haven't started it yet, but that mice model has a couple of advantages. One, of course, is that once you have a research, when you choose which research you want to do, you can use the mice model to test because you're duplicating the same deletion on the mice model to see how it responds. So I was able to convince him, and that was prior to forming the nonprofit. After the nonprofit was formed, and again, I was looking for a second type of researcher that would actually come and say, hey, you know, this is your mice model, great. I have these ideas, let's go ahead and test them. But for that type of scientist, you cannot go to a doctor or a regular, you know, PhD student in Rice University even. You have to go to the best of the best of the best. Somebody that is involved in the most current projects in the field of muscular dystrophy, even if it's not something that my son can benefit from, because that scientist has gone through a lot of different things. Those people were my target. I wanted to get to the best of the best so they can do something for my son for his deletion. So I came across a conference in Canada. It's called Treat NND, and that conference they have it twice a year. I think they have one for parents too, I'm not sure, but it's mostly for stakeholders, basically pharmaceuticals, researchers, universities, you know, anybody that has a high stake research in muscular dystrophy would attend that conference in Canada. And so I'm a parent. I have no,
Did you just
background.
Google this? You're like muscular dystrophy conference?
Yes, I was looking for researchers at that point, and a couple of names came up, and they came up as an attendee of the conference.
Okay.
So when I found that, I was like, well, that's where I want to be.
I need to know these people.
Yeah. So, and I went to the website and I signed up. You know, I signed up as a stakeholder. I hope Universe will forgive me for that. Maybe I wasn't fully truthful, but you know, I signed up because I wanted to be there. You know,
I love that.
Yeah, and it was in Canada. It's called Treat NMD. If you search it, it will pop up right away.
And they were discussing research or
everything. Yes, these are scientists, you know, discussing to other scientists, to other pharmaceutical reps coming in there with, you know, their findings and try to advertise their findings. And I'm just a guy that goes there and start asking really, really stupid questions. You know, like, oh, what is that? You know, to their eyes, I'm like, you know, this guy, you know, you're talking about a bunch of physics professors, and then this 7-year-old guy comes in and says, oh, I know 2 + 2 is equal to 4. Well, great, get out of my way. So that was the environment I was in the beginning.
Wow.
And prior to the start of the first day, I actually sent a couple of messages to a couple of the researchers, and one lady in particular responded to me. This lady told me, and I'm not gonna say her name because I want to actually tell you the story. It's very interesting. She told me, she said, look, I will talk to you, sure, I know you came a long way. I was honest, you know. I said, look, I'm a father, I came here to see what's going on. I'm trying to start a research on my own. I know this is far-fetched, but it's just I'm on that journey. So would you just meet with me for 5 minutes so I can ask a couple of questions? Yeah. Oh, she's more than sweet. She's the most big-hearted human being that, because of what she holds and how she approached me, it's quite inspiring. I went there and, you know, I didn't do much of a research because I was excited. So I was like, okay, let's just go meet her and see what's going on. I meet her. Her name is Annemika Artesma Ross. She's from Netherlands. She holds 14 patents in research, 4 in the US, 10 in Europe. She's the person that I would, and a lot of people would, consider as the mother of research when it comes to muscular dystrophy, because her papers have contributed so much, her studies. She's the absolute to-go person. The most recent drug that was passed in the US indirectly was as a result of one of her works.
Amazing.
And she is the advisor for Sarepta Therapeutic. She's a research advisor basically for them. This lady is a major figure in the world of muscular dystrophy. If you are somewhat active in the field, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That lady responded to me, not knowing who I am. She met with me, and I'm talking to her, not knowing who she is.
That's the best sometimes.
It is the best, you know, and I'm just pouring my heart out. I'm like, dude, you know, I need to do something. I cannot sit here. I came here. I'm willing to go all the way.
Wow.
And she was very inspired. You know, we had this really good conversation. I asked her, you know, would you be able to consider even becoming an advisor for our nonprofit? nonprofit. We just formed it. At that time, there wasn't any talk of any study. She said, look, let me check with my nonprofit, see if there's no conflict of interest. She checked the next day, even still in the conference, she would send me a message saying, you know what, that's okay. I can join your nonprofit's board of advisors. And of course, that was a huge accomplishment for me. Still not knowing exactly who she is, but that was still huge because I knew she has to be a somebody major, because she was also for Treat NMD, which is an organization in England, based on England. She's also their main to-go person. When I say, I don't want to go into titles and stuff like that, but she's the main to-go person. Pretty much all the grants in Europe, if they're research grants, will go under her for approval. So this lady is a very, very big deal. She agreed. Just like that, not knowing who I am, she agreed to help, and she joined the advisory board. Then I found out who she is. Of course, I did the research, talked to a couple of people, and then wow, so I've got LeBron James in my team. I didn't even know. So that was a very, very great surprise. Of course, a lot of motivation, and it's funny how one event leads to another and just create a chain reaction. And I think it's up to people to keep that chain reaction live. Which also, we had road bumps, we had, ups and downs. It's not a very smooth sailing at all times.
Tell me a road bomb.
Not being able to raise the money, for instance, right now, in July, I think it was, in July of 2023. That happened in December of 2022, right? Within the next 6 months, I will go back and forth with her because I was trying to see if she can do any type of research for my son, because now I have Dongsheng Duan that can make a mice model where I can test anything. And that's very important, because if you don't have a mice models are not a big a deal, but at the same time, they are a huge deal, because if you don't do it right, it doesn't show what is happening in your son's situation. But on the mice model, you can actually kind of observe. And then when you test whatever that you're trying to accomplish for my son, it has to be tested in a mice that has the exact same deletion. So in this case, I had that, but I didn't know which research I wanted. I knew there was CRISPR-Cas9, there's, all these gene editing programs, but of course, I don't know which one is more realistic, because we don't have that much time. Time is against us. So we can't just take
and how much does this stuff cost too?
A lot. And I will go into that.
And how do you even you got into this conference fortuitous way, but how do you convince these corporations or companies or people to help you?
That's one thing that we're still in the process. So we've gone through about 100 grand of our own money. And that's me, my twin brother, my other brother, and some friends. We've put everything, including my own car, into this. When I said my own car, that was the last thing that I...
What kind of car was it?
It was a 2019 Toyota Camry. That's what it was, okay? The car thing is because, we came to a point that it was a decision to be made. We were just out of money because I stopped working for 2 years, almost a year and a half. So I can full-time research and, go places, mentally be into the flow of things instead of, when you work and, you're just doing it on the side. That's one thing. But when you're in it, you're in it. It's a do or die situation. You have to put yourself in that situation in order to be able to continuously, aggressively go for it, because time is of an essence. So that decision has to be made. Of course, it didn't make sense to a lot of people. People thought I was crazy. I've been labeled many things in those 2 years, including my own intention. But again, it's a very simple thing, because all you got to do is just one little trip to the memory lane and remembering what it felt like when you got the diagnosis, remembering what it looks like if you do nothing when he grows up. And all those comments, everything just disappears like that.
You're sacrificing everything for your legacy.
That's what it takes. But at the same time, you have to learn to be happy in that process. You cannot be the miserable.
That's tough.
That is very tough. A lot of self-digging is required, because you do go down. You do start doubting yourself. If I tell you I didn't, I'm lying to you. I did doubt myself a number of times. But again, self-motivation. You have to remember what you're doing. You have to remember what you're fighting, and then see if that situation that is bringing you down is worth your attention, or the cause, or that horrible future that is awaiting your son. And that always wins, always. It always comes on top, because nothing is more painful than that, to me at least. So not having a car, people making fun of me, people saying, oh, this guy is this and that, all of those things, yeah, sure, but that's a bump in the road. It's nothing compared to that. That's like a trip to hell and back. And that's how your ego really dies. You're just in there to accomplish something, and you understand, in order to accomplish that, you have to have sanity in place. meaning that I do have to meditate. I do have to remind myself what is real. I do have to not get egoistic when people come and praise you for little things that you do. Oh, you went there. A lot of people say, oh, that's very inspirational or this and that. It does inflate my ego at times. And I think that, oh, wow, this is really cool. I'm doing this.
I have LeBron James.
I know, right? That's exactly right. Yeah. And then, of course, either universe will remind you by slapping you in the face, you're
dropping another bomb.
Yeah, exactly. Which happened. Most recent one was, I think, about 2 months ago, where he, for 3-4 days, he was not able to walk. It was horrible.
Oh, man.
And that was another wake up call. And of course, yourself, you would come to your senses that none of this is why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for another reason. It's not because to prove a point. It's very difficult to go against that because there's a lot of anger, of course, that builds up in you because people tell you really hurtful things. Not knowing what they're saying is very hurtful because not knowing of your own state of emotions. It's like you go to a wheelchair.
Can you tell me what people have said that was wrong?
Yes. So I'm not going to name names.
Yeah,
but,
don't.
I've been told that. I know, right? But I've been told that, somebody told me that they're worried about my mental health. That means I'm crazy. And
that's how you took it.
yeah, no, that was right a month before I actually created the nonprofit.
Wow.
2 months. It was a month before the nonprofit, and I was okay. I was getting the okay from Dongsheng Tuan. It was 2 months before I got Animika. 6-7 months before we actually got the okay from Animika's organization to do a research for us. So imagine if I would have said, oh, okay, well, yeah, maybe I should be thinking about my mental health.
Maybe I should just go to a therapist.
Yeah. And none of those events would have happened afterwards.
Wow.
That's how it is, and that's how I see it. And that was a lesson for me, that you just don't stop. You need to follow your instincts. You need to follow what feels right. And for that, how do you follow what feels right? How do you look? How do you know what your instincts are right or just an impulse?
How do you take care of you so you can take care of your son?
Meditation, to be honest with you, mostly. Meditation is because it's all about mental. It's nothing physical. Going to places is not a problem. Sure, I travel. I'll go here. I'll take my son. I'll carry him. It's a workout for me even. The part, it's all mental, and it's all about you keeping your sanity when things go wrong or when things go right. Because that also can take you off track, That can push you into a position of, oh, power. Look at me, Unfortunately, that is, something that existed in me in the past. And that is something that realistically comes forward at times, when you're
These
praised.
are big tests.
Yes, they are. Yeah. But it makes you a better person. I really believe that. And I feel that. And I'm very grateful for that. Although nothing really has been accomplished. If you ask me, nothing has been accomplished.
Why?
Because we're not testing yet. Because the test is not being performed as of right now. Because I haven't raised the $130,000. I need to send $80,000 to Animika, which is in Netherlands, for their organization to start their test. That takes about a year. And I need to have $50,000 to Dongsheng Duan. Of course, we donate the money. We send it to their organization in the Netherlands, it's Leiden University Medical Center in the Netherlands. Here is University of Missouri, basically. So we would donate the money to them, and they would allocate it to Animika and Dongsheng for their research to kickstart, basically, as an independent preclinical trial, because that's the first step. So we need a total of $130,000, which unfortunately, from July of 2023 until now, it's 9 months, 8 months? We have not raised that money. And that's one of the reasons I'm here to promote that, because that's how I feel nothing has been done. Yes, there's many good things that have been done, and I'm very much grateful for it. I know that if those things didn't happen, I wouldn't be here trying to even raise money for it, right? So already a couple of steps ahead. But if you ask me, I'm a couple of steps behind, because I have the research in my hand. I have not taken the right steps. Maybe I didn't make the right decisions. Maybe I was too emotional or too rushing to actually start it, where I actually didn't make it happen, and we tried different methods and we really went at it. And I think that kind of freaked a lot of people out. Maybe I didn't start, no, seriously, because people, imagine I'm telling you all these stories. Would you believe me right off the bat? No, I'm a nobody. I'm not a person of interest. I don't have these, some sort of a background or, parents or something that is so, somebody will look at me and say, oh, this guy is cool. I come from a very, simple background. And yes, I made mistakes in my life. Yes, I wasn't in the best position in life, meaning, possessions when it comes to things. But that was my challenge and I overcame it. And now I know where the path that I'm in and where I'm going with this research. For that, the belief wasn't there, to be honest with you. Maybe I was too emotional because at times I would get angry because, I'm like, dude, I have LeBron James in my team. could you just fund it so he can start playing and we start
Are there
winning?"
organizations that can help you? I mean, there are muscular dystrophy organizations.
Yes, actually, I know Pat Forlong. I know Deborah Miller. They're part of PPMD, Pat Forlong, Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy. This woman she's a lioness, I would say. She's the reason that 700 to actually up to today is $800 million has been raised because of this woman alone. And I'm talking about, she started in 1994, I believe. She was just a parent with 2 boys with Duchenne, a nurse also. There was nothing back then. She started that. Unfortunately, her children, both of them passed away at young age, and she never stopped.
God bless her.
Yes, and she went to Washington. She convinced the Congress to expand the budget in NIH. And since then, she's been advocating and raising a total of $800 million to be allocated to, of course, different universities use that. They're in form of different grants, million different projects that they
How do you navigate all of that?
Ask her. I don't know.
You need to attend an event that she's at.
I'm in contact with her constantly. And, she's an absolute inspiration to all of us, in the muscular dystrophy. And I think she's a mother figure for everyone because of her demeanor, her desire for answers, and the level of care that she feels. Look, there's things you can fake. There's things that just cannot simply be faked. And this woman is a perfect representation of that. She taught me one thing, and you know what that was? At the moment I saw her, I wanted to ask her for help, but I realized one thing. There's this deep realization that comes because not every time doing something is the right thing. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
And at that point, I realized when I met her the first time, and that was, I think, last year in the conference. It's an advocacy conference that they have in March, where before the Congress passes the budgets for all the year's spending, we go along. Of course, there are multiple different groups that go there. I went last year and I went this year. Prior to that, I didn't know that this was there, or I wasn't fully researching or being involved in it because I was so focused to find something for my son. But when I saw it and I knew about it, I decided to go right away. Of course, I went to Washington, D.C. They train you how to go and do the advocacy, talk to your state, basically representative in House and Senate. And I did that last year. I did it this year. And this year was a lot better because I was more prepared. I knew what to do. So we went with a group of Texas moms and dads. There was a grandpa also, which is very inspiring. And these people they make you stronger. There's this common understanding, there's this common respect, passion, goodness in the heart that it just makes you feel like I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. It's okay. This is the right thing. I should be in this path. And that's what it felt like when I met Pat Forlong. And I told her right away, I said, look, I wanted to ask you for budget so I can start this, but I'm not going to take the money away from the other parents. Look, there are other parents, there are other kids right now that every dollar that their organization is allocating to research is helping those people that have more immediate needs. There's a question that you ask yourself. Are you going to take that dollar away from those kids? Because their kids are in more danger than my kid is. And that doesn't make my kid less of a problem or less important, but it doesn't make him more important than somebody that needs help today. So I can wait 9 months to get the money myself versus to take it from that other kid that needs the help right now. So it's a question that you need to really ask yourself. Are you willing to do that to save your kid? And the answer was no. I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. If they have money laying around, sure, I'll take it with my eyes closed. But I know they don't. I know every dollar they spend.
I love that you have sympathy for others that are in more immediate need. Even though you need the money, you can still pause and care about others. That's big.
Thank you. And back to your first question, when you said, how does God play?
Yeah.
That's exactly how it plays. It teaches you to have compassion. It teaches you to open your eyes. You want people to see what you go through.
You want people to care about you.
Yeah. How about you care about the ones that is in a worse situation than you are? It's very simple
That's
process.
A huge lesson.
Yeah, it is a huge. And it's like you're in the middle of, two people in a line. There's a person behind you. There's a person in front of you. You have to be compassionate for the person in front of you and do something so the person behind you can benefit from, while you're also yourself in the line and trying to get something done. So I see the kids in front of me and I see the kids behind me. The one in front of me needs more attention. So I'm not going to mess with anything that goes toward that contribution. The one behind me me is looking up to me. I have to do something that will benefit him. And also I can say, hey, why don't you come next to me? Don't
I
be
almost
behind
feel
me.
like you're going to be blessed for that because I don't even think that everyone can do that. Like so
That's
many
what it feels
people
like, yeah.
just want to save themselves. So
Yes.
people will literally bump you out of their way.
Yes, that's true. There are a lot of people that are like that, but that's why people think that you're crazy, because when you say stuff like that, it's just almost too good to be true. But that's okay. I will say it and you will see it, and I will say until you get sick of it, until you see that it's not. That's how you can be true to yourself. It's not something to prove, it's to do the right thing. Because I believe if I don't do the right thing, it's like having blood hands. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
You know, you trying to save your son and you're willing to kill two other people for that.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to
I
do
was
that,
actually
you know?
like thinking about the music festival in Israel and how everyone was running for their lives. And there was a survivor that actually said, we're all driving out. She's not going to cut somebody off or not
Yes.
let them on the road.
That's
She's
where
like,
you're
if God
tested.
is going to let me survive, I'm
He
going to
will
get
let-
there in my turn.
Exactly.
And she survived.
That is a beautiful, beautiful mentality. That's exactly what it is.
I was like, damn, she's high level to
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
in complete panic mode.
That's a real test. That's a real test in life. Yeah, because that's where your life is at stake. There's nothing more important.
And she's still like, you know what? Their life matters too.
Yeah, and that person will be the biggest advocate, of course.
She lived to tell that story.
Yeah, this is just the beginning of her journey. I promise you that person will be the biggest advocate. That person is going to go do great things, even if she's not, because she's going through post-traumatic stress. I would definitely suggest that she would do it.
Yeah.
And I know she would, you know, because that's something that you would definitely want to share. The world needs more of that than it needs gangsters and assholes. And I do apologize for that.
I'm
but
with you.
yeah, we need more compassion. We need more understanding a little bit. And it's just going toward the direction where God knows how it will be. I mean, if everybody just look at themselves, what kind of a world are our children going to be living? I would like to change that just a little bit.
You are.
You know, and that's what it takes. One person. It takes one person to spark. I don't expect people to, you know, sympathize with me, or I just expect them, hopefully this will change a little bit something inside of them. And a lot of good people are out there, but unfortunately there is not a lot of people like me that would speak their mind. You need to speak your mind. If you truly believe in something, it's something that is for the good of others in the world, or even for the sake of your own son. It doesn't matter how you got to that point. Bring it to the surface. Contribute. It will change you. Not only run, that's why I said, you know, not always running and doing something is the point. Not always being the winner and accomplishing something is the point. It's the journey. How? Are you willing to push people around to get to that point?
Can I ask you a sensitive question?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
It tore apart your marriage.
It did a little bit, I would say, and a little bit of it was also my own insecurities and problems. I wouldn't like blame it on the disease itself.
Okay.
You got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
It was for the better. My ex-wife is a great, great mom.
That's wonderful to
That
say.
is wonderful, because I get nervous for my son. Of course, I'll get nervous on, you know, choices she makes and this and that. You know, that was all in the beginning. But as the time passed by, all of those kind of dissolved. Me going also through this journey of finding something for him as I was getting more involved and learning more about myself, it really felt like a rebirth, as if I'm learning life again.
Ooh.
What is really life? Is this what they fed you? That doesn't feel right, you know? And is this what people, you know, doing this angriness and people just shoving each other apart? It's not. That's not what I chose. I'd like to change that a little bit in myself first. You start with yourself. And then people, and that's why we have it on our website. On the top of the website, we say lead by example. That's my motto. I'll lead you by example. I'm not going to say a word. Okay, well, I mean, we're talking a lot of words here, but but until now, there has been very little words, because, you know, you have to do things, and you have to do things for the goodness of your own and your kid and the other people, not for the purpose of trying to make a name or even a point, to be honest with you. So that has been, and of course, I believe my son can be saved that way. If universe wants to save him, I let the universe do its thing, aka God. I am not going to get in the way of it. I would just listen. Just say, okay, Mazi, is out the way. Here's my body. Take it. Where would you like me to go? Would you like me to go there? Sure, I'll go there. Would you like me to be quiet here? I'll be quiet here. Would you like me not to ask for money from that organization? I won't ask it. It doesn't feel right. So those decisions all stem from this. It's a very simple belief that you have to be more present. You have to meditate. You have to understand the world a little bit better. Dig deep inside of yourself to see what feels really really right. What is it that would change your life and change your son's future? And the answer always has been for me for the past 5 years. And it was never like that. I was not this person. I was another confused, egoistic, simple 32-year-old guy that wanted this and that, insecurities, and all of those just vanished. They really did. Pain. Enough pain in life will break it to nothingness. I don't know how to describe it. And it makes you more brave. It makes you more genuine. It makes you more pleasant to be around. That has been my journey. And also, I'm very grateful that I would sit here with you, to be honest with you. And I wasn't ready until today. I've done other, things trying to explain these type of stuff, but I think myself, I wasn't fully ready to explain it the way it needs to come out. And today, as soon as I saw you, it just wanted, as soon as I saw Kelby, actually, it wanted to come out. It wanted to okay, cool. These are good people. They understand.
Aw.
Sure, I'll let it out. So that's why I told you, let's go in.
I'm so happy that you feel that way.
Thank
That
you.
means the world to me. Honestly, it is like my mission to create a safe space for people to be able to share in this way.
Yeah, just be yourself.
Yeah.
Simple. Whatever that is, it's good enough.
It is. Where are you today with your son, with your nonprofit, with your mission?
Sure. So when we got the go-ahead from Animika, that was in July of 2023, I went desperately into the search because that kind of completed the picture that I wanted to do. And now I have a study, which is a long non-coding RNA study. It's not a gene editing study. This one is going to help my son as well as people with certain blindness, eye disease, and certain people with certain brain disease. And it will help people with Duchenne muscular dystrophy when it comes to what they call exon skipping. Exon skipping is basically when you skip one block on those 79 blocks in order to, from this to go to this. That's what it means. This study is something that is great for him, that is great for others, and I went at it quite aggressively. I went through the network of people that I knew, and there was a lot of ups and downs, and we actually tried to get one fundraising event back in December of 2023. That fell apart because we just weren't ready for it, and we were just moving too fast and too aimlessly. We were just going to everyone in front of us or in our network and asking for 130K. I wanted overnight. I wanted it bad, and that was my mistake. I realized it afterwards that, okay, that's not what you're standing for. My whole belief stands for. I'm forcing it, and that's exactly what it was, and it didn't give me results. And unfortunately, at that point, I was very depressed, because 2023 passed, nothing happened. Now I have, again, LeBron James and and Michael Jordan in my team, and I'm just standing on the side court scratching my head. So my brother, Ben, came up with the idea. He said, look, in order to avoid this, we can do two things. One is we continue doing the same that we were doing. We will go out asking people for money, try to build more marketing materials, because I didn't believe in it. Because, when it comes to research, when you say, look, I'm going to do research, a lot of people would not donate their money, not because they don't like me. It's because I've had a talk with one gentleman that he told me indirectly that I would rather put my money into somewhere. People are hungry. I don't want to put 200K on your research when I don't know if it really gives you the result or not. And he's got a point there. At the same time, there is another point. Until I don't do that RNA study, I'm not going to know if that is going to work for my son or not. And that's the irony. I have to try it. If I don't, I might be quitting on something that is absolute help to my son. Because if that RNA study, long non-coding RNA study that Animika wants to do, that can actually build multiple bridges back to that, conversation of dystrophin protein being the bridge. It can build multiple bridges. It can also strengthen those bridges. That's what it does. It's still not a perfect world for my son, but instead of him, for instance, going to wheelchair at 19, 20, 12, he can go to wheelchair at 30, 40. That is huge, because that's another 10, 20 years of research that can help him to completely get rid of the issue, which is gene editing. It is being perfected, but nothing even close for my son. So, and it's very risky for him because it can make his condition actually worse. And it's a one-time thing. You can only edit the gene one time. You cannot do it more than one time. So any of the fathers, anybody that goes into these trials, they know they're risking that one time. So, there's a lot of things involved that you have to consider. You really desperately want to save your kid, but you have to think about it. Am I really able to go in there? And what if it doesn't work and some other technology come down the road? But if your weight long enough, he might go on wheelchair. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I think pushes us to the edge sometimes, and we start rushing because, now there's an opportunity that is real, tangible, something that can give me some sort of answer within a year,
Wow.
1 year.
Wow.
Yeah, and the answer, of course, is 1 year, but then you have another 2 years of testing the dosing and on all of side effects on the mice, and then after that, you go into a clinical trial. So, but once it goes to the clinical trial after 3 years, my son can be the same patient, the first patient in that clinical trial, and this study doesn't take the chance away from him to go into any type of gene editing, because this doesn't really edit the gene that is at fault here. It is strengthen the protein that is being produced by the faulty gene, so that protein can hold on and limit the damage on the muscle until we can come up with a specific program for him. And I want to duplicate the exact same thing for any parent that comes into our nonprofit. Just want to provide crazy parents like myself, the ones that don't have any breaks, nothing will stop them. Come over. Sure, I want to get to know you. Come tomorrow, we start on your kid too. We have one more parent actually, Tushar Tangsali. He has 2 kids. I think it's 9 and 11. And I do apologize because I should be knowing this. I'm not good at numbers and names even, but his kids are both on wheelchair, but still have the potential to be safe, to be able to get involved into treatments. And Tushar also, he's an extraordinary dad because holding a job, talking to all these scientists before I did any of this guy did it too. It's my type of man, my type of father. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, once I was introduced to him through a very good friend of ours that also she's a mother to another boy with muscular dystrophy, and that was in Pat for Lungs event. You see, one person can make such a huge impact. And also I want to give credit to Deborah Miller. She also has a son with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Their organization is called Cure Duchenne. They also have raised God knows how much money, millions and millions, and they also dedicated it to not only research but also other things, services that they provide to families, like advice on science and which research to go to. They do a lot of work like that. These 2 families, Deborah Miller and Pat Furlong, are very much our idol, to be honest with you, are the example for us. We have these 2 organizations, but I call them families because the organization is one thing. These souls that decided to make a movement is a totally different thing to me.
Wow.
Yeah, so they have made a movement that I think will have an impact forever on parents like myself. And I hope to also do the right thing. And somebody might get impacted by it, somebody might not, I don't know. But I will continue to do the right thing because that's what matters. Right now, we have the study ready to go in the Netherlands with Anemika for the long non-coding RNA research. We have Fang Sheng Duan of University of Missouri ready to go. They're only waiting for us to provide them the funds. We are trying to come up with the $130,000 initially, and Ben and I decided that we are going to approach it 2 ways. One is that we continue to advocate and try to raise money through the nonprofit. But in case if that doesn't happen again in 6 months, I got involved in Ben's business because I'm quite good at certain things when it comes to business, marketing, market penetrations, consumer analysis and stuff like that. That's just my nature and I'm good at it. It's not an advertisement, by the way. It's not. And I'm not going to tell you the name of the business and all that because that's not the point here. I don't want the message to get lost. We are trying to make something happen on the business too as a backbone and something that can fill the deficit. Let's say in 6 months we can produce enough money throughout the business that if we raise $90,000 and we're short $40,000, we can actually get the money from the business and inject it. What it is software design and stuff like that. So there's a potential growth very fast. It's not something that you have to wait years and years for you to make money. So it's a realistic approach. It's something that he has been working on for a while. He's had his company for a while, but now he's expanding it and he's trying to work on it and bring it into life. And of course, that's a risk for him too. But he's taken it because he knows that he's seen my movement. He knows how things has happened and he's adapting that very mentality.
How did you get your brothers to hop on board and support you in this way?
So sure. My twin brother didn't need convincing. Me and him are almost one. So that's the advantage of being a twin. So you're raised with somebody.
Not always.
Actually, let me tell you. So even if they do research, I'm sure in the future they will do more research on this. But when you're raised with somebody in the stomach, as a fetus in the stomach, all the way into your adulthood until you get to 18 years old, right, where you leave the house, it teaches you one thing. It teaches you to always knowingly knowingly or not knowingly, it would teach you to always be considerate of the other person. Why? Because you raised with that person, because that person been there since second one. It's impossible to hate that person. It's impossible not to consider his feelings, or when he comes, home, it's impossible not to notice if he's upset or not, because you've seen this guy since the very beginning. You know every little emotions that he goes through, because you almost go through it, but you spend so much time. You spend this much time with the wall. You get to know the wall, and the wall gets to know you. You know every little scratch on the wall. So it's the same thing with twins, and me and him, we have a very strong relationship. It's always been there, and my twin is the nicest of the two. He is. With the twins, I don't know why is it like that, but you have one that is very quiet and nice, and one very fire and crazy. That's me. And with him, he's the calm and collected one, very kind-hearted. At the times that I would get angry at the world and myself because the situation was unfolding, he was always there. So his name is Babak. He is the one that the first point of contact that stayed with me. He's the one that said, look, quit your job, I got your back. He works at Andy Anderson, by the way. He's an engineer. He's been working for Andy Anderson for 2-3 years now. And unfortunately, this guy has run through a lot of his savings and a lot of things that he could have had, sacrificed travel, this, that, so he can actually fund me, basically. And then my first brother, the older one, Ben, that you met, he also joined, and he has a family and he has things to attend. It's not easy. He joined, and now he's trying to contribute his way. He was in the background in the beginning because he was getting things set up. He was trying to see how he can contribute, and then now he's jumping in. He's the reason I'm here, because he met with you. That's how we're trying to basically.
That's a tremendous example right there.
Thank you.
That is the Top Gun experience.
It is. I would say so. Yes. It's very painful. Don't get me wrong. It's not something that you can just breeze through. It looks very from the outside, even as an
that
idea.
Makes your plane stronger.
Yeah, it makes everything. To be honest with you, it's an effect that ripples through whoever that you touch or come across, and it brings the good in people. I have a friend of mine also is like that. I have a friend that she's such a kind-hearted person that every time I'm upset, I would just contact her, and just by talking to her, she just brings the good in me.
I love that.
Yeah. So to compare it is kind of the same. Yes, I agree.
Wow.
And that's where we are, basically. We're asking for people, whoever's listening, to help us promote
it
the
can
nonprofit.
Simply be that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly,
yeah.
if they don't even want to donate, if they want to donate, wonderful, but share this message.
Share the message. Yeah, exactly. Share the mentality.
Yeah.
People need to know what this is.
Yes.
What is behind it, how it formed to be, and where it's headed. Unfortunately, maybe it is my shortcoming that I haven't done this, because first I didn't have the courage, and sometimes due to emotional imbalance, because I'm not God. Look, it's not an advertising agency. I'm a father. There's pain there. There's emotions there. Sometimes I'm not even able to. You remember how I was crying like a baby the first time we met on Zoom? And that's how it is. But today I have the strength. I went through that emotions.
I can't believe you didn't cry today.
I know, but
I didn't ask the right question.
No, because I know the importance. I get one chance to come in here and tell my story, and I don't want the emotions to get through it. And as I told you, the message is not a message of sorrow. The message is not a message of feel bad for me or my son. The message is message of strength, a fighting chance, and overcoming barriers, no matter how big or impossible they seem. We will overcome it one way or another, sooner or later. That's the idea.
I love that, and I believe you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, we will show it one way or another for others to get inspired, other parents like myself to get involved. But first, we're doing it, of course, for my own little boy, for Tushar's 2 boys, and whoever that is behind me in the line.
That's an incredible legacy.
Thank you. I don't see it that way, but thank you. I really want something for my son, so.
What do you want for him?
A chance. See, now you get me tears off. But yeah, a chance, yeah. Crying a little bit. Yeah, a chance to have a normal life. I've said it actually, if you go to my Facebook, I don't have a lot of followers and stuff like that, but I've said it too that a chance is all I want. Just a normal life. That's it.
What's normal?
Being able to walk, not going on wheelchair for, when you're 20, when you're 10,
Ever.
Honestly, even if you don't go out at 20, 30, that's still, to us, it's a miracle, because right now the picture is very, very ugly. The future is something that I cannot even talk about. And I'd rather not, because I don't want to manifest it. But it is something that cannot be ignored. It has to be looked at every once in a while for you to be able to keep going, keep believing in yourself and movement. But that's what we want. I think every parent in the muscular dystrophy community, that's what they want. They just want a normal life. That's a chance at it even. And if I don't get that chance, if I don't make it happen, that's fine. it's life. That's what universe intended. That's what God intended for me, and that's fine with me. But I will do my part. I will carry on consciously. I will do the best I can, and I'll let the universe and God to take the rest.
That's
So,
beautiful.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sure. So anybody listening, I'm just asking for understanding and a little bit of support. And even if they don't, I hope that this helps you to look at your life a bit differently.
Let people know how they can connect with you and support you and all that good stuff.
Sure. So we have a website. It's called hopeforluka.org. That's hope for, and Luka is luka.org, and they can make a donation. And our website is not the best website because I designed it myself, but it is what it is. We have to be careful with the funds that we have, so we try to do everything that we can best us ourselves, because on the payment processing is not the best payment processing. Sometimes it's confusing, but there are other ways also. We have a GoFundMe page for our nonprofit for
Okay,
Hope for
great.
Luka. They can actually find it in GoFundMe.
I'll put that in the show notes.
Sure, and I will
Yeah.
send you that information as well. So if they have not difficulty doing it through the website, of course they can go through the GoFundMe and donate there. Again, you can do it through the website. GoFundMe probably will be the best and easiest. There's a description, everything is on there, and either way they can do it. We can even send people PayPal links and stuff like that. But that's not realistic, because I don't want to get 1,000 emails.
Yeah.
1,000 PayPals. But yeah, if they want to reach out, they can always feel free to reach out. My cell phone is actually on the website in the contact us page. That is my cell phone. Feel free to text me, call me, whatever. If I don't answer,
Send good
of course.
wishes.
Yeah, anything, anything would help, to be honest with you. And yeah, and the only thing that I would ask the public is that don't look at these kids as disabled people. Don't do that. They're way more than this. These people have been through hell and back. These are the real heroes, man. If you go through 1/10 of the pain that these people emotionally, physically, mentally they go through. Imagine what this did to me, and I've only been through this 5 years. The revelations, the realizations, what it did to Lily. When you listen, I did listen to a couple of her podcasts, and how well-spoken, soft-spoken, compassionate this lady is, and all these kids that go through the same thing, they're in the same way. Don't make fun of them. Don't try to put them down. These are people with high level of consciousness, with high level of compassion. They have love for each other. They have love for other people. Celebrate them. Don't feel sorry for them. They don't need that. They need to be seen. They need to be heard, and they need to be appreciated. Do that, and I promise you good things will show up in your life. I think that's something that has and is missing in the society today, and just we need more of that. That will be my message.
I love that message. I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You've heard from my mom. Now, let's switch it over to Grandpa.
What an interesting subject matter to be brought up again. There's no Jerry Lewis that used to have these telethons for muscular dystrophy and used to raise millions of dollars. And of course, Jerry Lewis was a very controversial character because his family thought that he was just doing it for publicity and to do something that was out of the ordinary, to pick a disease that was not given much publicity. And it turns out after this interview, you can see the devastation of this disease. Even though many people might not catch this or have this, it's still an unbelievable, devastating deterioration to your body. It's almost like you're dying a little bit every day. And yet you have all your senses, you have all your knowledge, you have your brain just doesn't understand that your body is going to be completely dysfunctional after a short period of time.
But what if it could be fixed?
This is what Jerry Lewis would raise money and awareness of this every year. And it's my opinion, because I watched all 20 of his telethons, I believe that he was sincere and that he really wanted to make a difference for this disease. And yet his children and a lot of other people thought that it was just a platform for his own career. He had plenty of talent, plenty of shows. He didn't need a telethon to promote himself. So I disagree with the critics. Now, what's interesting as well that comes out in this, I don't know, I get like 3 lessons of relationships out of this interview. I just want to touch on them real quick. He's decided to be all in and do whatever is necessary and dedicate the rest of his life, because he won't be able to work. He won't be able to really have a relationship with anyone else if he's running all over the place, trying to do everything that he can to give his son hope and to give him every opportunity to live as long as he can and to fulfill his life. What does that mean? He was willing to throw away any other type of relationship. And then I think it was part of the frustration of everything. You're having a really wonderful discussion with Mazi, who has really now dedicated his entire life and well-being to trying to see if he can participate in giving his son every opportunity to live with a devastating disease called muscular dystrophy. Unfortunately, and he even admits it, that it's not no fault of his wife, but that type of dedication and running around and what he was going to do and the kind of time and effort it would take to put together research, put a nonprofit to travel all over the place to get people that are networked in this particular area. He dropped everything else. And unfortunately, he says that he was almost like reborn. What happened is that he became really a different person is what he developed into. And the relationship with his wife, where they might still be good friends. Unfortunately, that was a casualty in all of this, and not necessarily for bad reasons. Now, as you know, Aunt Bessie got hit by a taxi and she had her neck broken, where she was really the first person that survived this type of tragic accident. But my grandmother gave her every opportunity with grandpa, because they had 4 children together, still to have a family together, still to try to run a business together, and still to try to raise a daughter that has been where she was paralyzed her whole life on half the side of her body. But she got married, she had children, she still had a life, and yet she never complained one day. I never heard her complain one day that I knew her in my life. And she ended up also with a daughter, Diane, that ended up getting cancer at 46, where she was also in perfect health and condition, where she could beat up most boys, okay? And yet she also, with this devastating cancer that she had to overcome and needing a bone marrow transplant, she lived 13 more years, and yet also never complained and was so happy for every moment of life that she still had. And isn't that what Mazi is saying also, is that you have to be able to appreciate every breath that you take, every opportunity to live, no matter what, and give your son, give yourself every opportunity to enjoy life to the fullest if you can, and not be angry about anything, but to make the best of everything that you can and whatever cards you're dealt, and not to whine and complain and be bitter about anything. So those are really very strong lessons. I had learned some of these lessons because we had a devastating accident in my family where we've seen that example. And even I told you that story that when grandma had a mini stroke and she came up to live with my mom, Bessie had already taken, because she was in the upper apartment in Miami Beach, and she moved in the next day to grandma's apartment. And I told grandma, I says, you're not even here one day and she's already taken over your place. That's the only time she raised her voice in her entire life in my presence, ripped her shirt and said, I would have given my life to give my daughter a better opportunity. I would have changed places with her so that she could have had an easier time with her life. Anything that I have is hers. Wow, what a punch in the face that was. Completely unexpected, that answer. But that's where, again, that comes in this interview as well, is that you have to live, besides thinking of just yourself and your own material things, that life and experiencing some good times is far worth anything more than some type of physical item or a dollar bill. And I think you know that your father, he likes to make money, but he's not arrogant with it. And yet when it comes to spending money on his family, he's willing to do that at any time. To him, that's part of my pleasure. The truth of the matter is that in order to be connected to God and to be connected to this beautiful planet that we're on, is that we have to think beyond ourselves. And that comes out in this episode. The other interesting point that was brought up is that he brought up his twin brother. And I wanted to comment on that for a minute also. From the beginning of life, he's sharing a belly with his brother. And for some explanation, and of course, I think there's some scientific evidence of this, but 2 brothers especially that are twins, they are connected not only in the womb, but it appears that they're connected and can feel each other and understand each other even outside of the womb, their whole lives, that there is some type of real mental connection where I think they can even feel each other's pain, even if they're not in the same room or even in the same state. I've heard of this. I believe that there is a way that our brains can have some type of maturing connection where not only can we feel God, but we can feel each other and feel even family members, if our conscious can really get connected, where you can really think about that person and they thinking about you. I don't even think you need a telephone to know what they're doing, or I think you can even have some type of conversation with them, even though it sounds like I'm a little crazy about it. Okay, but it is something that I hope that Mazi can be successful in giving his son every opportunity. But what work he's doing and what he's now dedicated his life to is to give everyone an opportunity that has this disease a glimmer of light, a glimmer of hope that things can improve and get better. And I really believe in my heart that Jerry Lewis believed the same thing, and that it was not just a show, even though, like I said, there are plenty of critics. But as you know, your father has done some wonderful things at times. Not only did I not get any credit, but I got criticized and attacked for it. I'm sure that there's a lot of other people also that get more criticism, even when they do sometimes good things. So what we have to do is reach down into our heart, do the right things, do good things, make sure that your conscience is clear. I'm sure that God will continue to show us the light and show us the way where we don't have to worry about the peanut gallery.
I like it. Thanks for listening. Now I think I'm going to go call my dad.
I'll say goodbye and see you the next time.
Thanks for listening to the Better Call Daddy Show. Join us weekly for new episodes and more daddy wisdom.
Better Call Daddy is good advice always.
And love you, Grandpa, and love you, Mommy.
That's so cute. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. You can also find special episodes on my YouTube channel, and you can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Alexa,
On Good Pods.
or your preferred podcatcher. That's a wrap for now.